Kaboom. Okay, there we are. All right, hey, what's going on, everybody? And good evening. Welcome to b.hive Productions Horror Hump Days. We are on episode 4. So we've been doing this for a month now. Every Wednesday, I read you a short story from one of my horror anthologies, and tonight we're going to be dealing with a one called Kelso's Pump and Go. Now the nightmare fuel for this story is I was taking Chantix at the time. This is back in, let's see here, back in 2016. So the story is from this book, Nyctophobia, another anthology of horror by yours truly. Yeah, as you can tell in the author picture here, um, I was attempting to quit smoking, and so I was taking Chantix, and I don't know if any of you out there have taken Chantix before, um, but it has some side effects to it, and one of those side effects is you have very lucid dreams, and the dreams aren't regular dreams. They are either very erotic dreams or they're very violent dreams. And I guess me being me, I got the violent dreams, and that's what this is. That's how all of the story came out, was through a fever dream of Chantix. So I did do a little lookup on it here, um, on the Google machine. Let's see here. Chantix. Vivid or abnormal dreams are a common side effect of Chantix. They occur in up to 1 in 12 people who take it. It's also one of the most common reasons people stop taking Chantix. You'll usually only take Chantix for a few months, so as long as the dreams aren't troubling you, they'll go away after you stop taking it. Let's see here. There's something here. Yes. About 1 to 3% of people who take Chantix report nightmares or sleep disorders. The description is nightmares can be vivid and unusual and may involve activity. For example, one patient described pulling down wall fixtures during a nightmare. Chantix can also cause other sleep-related disturbances, such as trouble sleeping, abnormal dreams, and sleepwalking. While nightmares can be bothersome, they usually aren't dangerous. If the side effects are severe or bothersome, you can talk to a provider about alternatives. So a lot of the dreams that I was having, they were very bloody and they were very violent. Not only with this story, I think I wrote a couple other stories as well while taking that wonderful stuff. It did work. I did quit smoking for a while, but then I had to stop taking it because the worst nightmare I had was I had woken up and I couldn't find my family anywhere, and I went into the kids' bedroom and I had chopped them all up into little pieces. And then I woke up again, and yeah. So yeah, I had to quit it, and of course, I started smoking again. I got lung cancer. Yeah. So, it probably should have just stayed on it for a while. So anyway, moving on to the story. It's called Kelso's Pump and Go. It's in my anthology Nyctophobia. I wrote that back in 2016, and yeah, I think we should just dive right into it. Do do do. Kelso's Pump and Go. So if you got a cold one, crack one please with me. Good evening, Shannon, and welcome, and cheers. All right. Kelso's Pump and Go. This is also probably my first story that was written not in Minnesota. So we'll see how that goes. Kelso's Pump and Go. The Saturn chugged for about 38 miles south of Sioux City on I-29. Mark had filled the tank, but it was acting as if the fuel pump was clogged. Good evening, Kevin. Good to see you, buddy. Missed you last night at the... we'll talk about that after the story. He dialed his mother's number in Omaha, but she didn't answer. He grit his teeth as he felt the engine lose power and it began to stall. Son of a bitch, he screamed to himself as he coasted into the shoulder. He pulled a Marlboro out of his breast pocket and lit it. He dialed his mother again. As she picked up, he heard a rumble like thunder behind him, a familiar sound of Harley-Davidsons coming south. It was normal, as the annual Biker Fest in Sturgis had just ended another week of debauchery. Hello, his mother repeated. Ma, he shouted over the rumble. He noticed close to 30 bikes pulling over in the shoulder with him. Yes, son, what is it? He looked into his rearview mirror and saw there must have been another 40 bikes behind him in the shoulder. Shit, he said to himself. What? Oh, sorry, Mom. Look, I'm having car trouble, so He read the back of the leather vest. Hells Angels, Massachusetts. Son, are you okay? Sorry, Ma. I'm gonna have to let you go. Mark? He hangs up on his mother and looks around for a weapon. Son of a bitch, he says again to himself. I'm gonna die. He jumps and nearly wets himself as a surprised knock raps on his window. It's one of the bikers. Long, dusty hair and an even longer beard. A blue bandana faded with years of sweat and sunshine wrapped around a sunburnt brow. But he is smiling. Mark cracks the window. Hey, man, everything okay? The biker asks. Mark says, the damn thing keeps stalling. It starts back up after I let it sit a while. Sounds like your fuel line. Hang tight, I'll be right back. The biker walks back towards the back of the line, and Mark sees him chatting with another biker. The other biker nods his head and then kickstarts his bike, and it roars to life. He pulls out from the shoulder and roars on to the next exit. The original biker walks back to his window. Shot glass will be right back, he says. We'll get you going again. You guys really don't need to, Mark begins. Nah, man, it's cool. Hate seeing anyone stalled on a desolate interstate like this. Especially in a cage. Cage? Yeah, man, cage. That's what you're driving. Oh, the car. You got it. Mark lit another cigarette. Want one? Nah, thanks. I quit about 3 years ago. Well, good for you. So, where you headed? Omaha, visiting my parents. The biker just nodded his head and then walked up to his own hog and laid one on his old lady. Mark's mother called him again. Hey, Ma, he said. What's going on? She asked, worried. Are you okay? Yeah, car stalled. Some nice, bikers stopped and are helping me get it fixed. Bikers? It's okay, Ma, really. I won't make it home for lunch, but I should be there before dinner. You just be careful, Mark. They said their goodbyes and hung up. Mark raised his Galaxy 3 and snapped a photo of the crowd of bikers parked in front of him. He fiddled around with menus and then posted the photo on his Facebook page. This is how Iowa does emergency road service, he wrote and added, feeling nervous. At that moment, there was another rap on his window. It was a different biker. and he didn't look happy. Yeah? Mark said timidly. Erase that photo, the biker ordered him. What? That photo you just took. Erase it. Now. I'm sorry, he fumbled through his phone's gallery. Give me that goddamn thing. The biker snatched it out of his sweaty hands and touched a few buttons on his touchscreen and deleted his photo. He then began to peruse the photos taken in his gallery. Can I have that back? Mark asked nervously. Hang on. The biker stopped at one photo and smiled. Who's the hot chick? That's my sister. Nice. I bet I could have a lot of fun with that. No, that's not necessary. Just hand me my phone back. The biker laughed and then handed the phone back to him. When Mark reached for it, the biker snatched it back. Please, sir? Did you post that picture on anything? What? What? Don't be a dumb fuck. You heard what I said. Mark thought about lying to him, but then realized the guy would only have to touch the Facebook icon on his phone, and he'd be on his page. He already felt violated enough. I'm sorry. I posted it to my Facebook page. The biker handed him the phone. Take it off. I'm going to stand right here and watch you do it. With hands trembling, Mark deleted his Facebook post. The biker leaned into his window, still glaring at him. Listen, some of us don't like being photographed, especially by cum-lickers like you. So keep your phone to yourself until we get you up and running, or I'll come back here and shove that phone so far up your ass you'll be able to dial out with your tongue. Comprende? Mark nodded his head and waited until the biker walked away before he breathed again. He wanted to start his car and leave, but he knew the bikers would just chase him down, and if the Saturn has been reliable for anything, it's breaking down. The biker, who had left, pulled up and parked his bike right in front of him. He banged on his hood. What? Mark asked. The biker held up a can of seafoam engine cleaner. Come on, open up that hood, the biker yelled. Mark popped the hood and stepped out of his vehicle. Can I help? Mark asked. Just hang tight in your cage, little man, the biker said as he uncapped the engine block. I've got some medicine for your engine, and a can of medicine for your fuel injector. The first biker walked up to him. Don't worry, man, he said, patting him on the shoulder. Shot Glass is our mechanic. After Shot Glass finished capping the engine block, he slammed the hood and then told Mark to start his car, and made his way to the fuel tank with another can of seafoam injector cleaner. The Saturn started right up, really flooded into Mark's face, and the bikers started their bikes and drove off, giving him the thumbs up. He lit another Marlboro and exhaled deeply, releasing a giant plume of smoke. He checked his side view mirror and pulled back out onto I-29 and clicked on his radio. 60 miles before hitting the Council Bluffs Omaha border, the Saturn began to chug again, sputtering and dying and then revving up again. He stomped his foot to the floor with the accelerator. It sputtered and then yanked its way forward. Come on, girl, Mark shouted at his dash. Come on, we're almost there. But she didn't listen and decided to die at mile marker 83. There was an off-ramp that led off into the bluffs to a small town called Abaddon, Iowa. Mark dialed his parents' house, and his dad answered. Dad, Mark said, slightly happy, I really need your help. The car broke down again near some place called Abaddon in Iowa, right off I-29. Do you think you could come and get me? Abaddon? His dad asked. Never heard of it. Can you just call a tow truck? I guess, but can't you guys just come and get me and I can have someone nearby fix it and we'll get it on my way back home? Well, I've already had a few beers. I probably shouldn't. What's Ma doing? She's making dinner. Are you going to make it in time for dinner? Obviously not, Dad, since no one can come and get me. Mark could hear his mother's voice in the background, and then his dad spoke up. Hang on, your mom wants to talk to you. Mark? She asked. Mom, do you think you could come out to Abaddon in Iowa and get me? My car broke down again. I told you I didn't trust those bikers. Right, so, can you come and get me? I can't leave dinner on the stove while it's cooking. Mark let out a deep sigh. Okay, can you come and get me after dinner? Oh, so you're not coming to dinner? Jesus, I'm stalled on the side of the fucking road in bumfuck Iowa. How the hell am I gonna make it home for dinner? Mark O'Connor O'Hare, you watch your mouth when talking to your mother. Sorry, Mom. Don't you sorry me. You've never spoke to me like that before. It's a damn lifestyle you're living. I told you that God would bring bad things on you if you turned gay. Mark felt another battery of curse words load into his mouth, and he swallowed them down and lit another cigarette. Ma, he said as calmly as he could, can you come and get me or not? His phone beeped twice, signifying his battery life was at 10%. Ma, he pleaded, I need to know soon. My battery's dying on my phone, and my charger doesn't work when the car isn't running. Call us when you get your car into the shop, she says. I'll send Dad up to get you. He's been drinking, Ma. His phone warns him again. This time it's at 6%. The battery drains faster when he's roaming. Okay, I'll call you when I get towed. Bye. He lets out a deep sigh and then uses another 2% of his battery life to find a tow service. Then 3% to call the tow service, and he sits with the remaining 1% as he attempts to start his car so that he can run his charger. As luck would have it, Kelso's Pump and Go was in the town of Abaddon, which was only 6 miles from the Interstate 29. They had their own tow truck and sent it out lickety-split. The tow truck driver introduced himself as Cameron Kelso, but everyone just called him Cam. He dressed in oil-stained blue coveralls that were ripped in various places. His hair looked just as oily, with an outcrop of patchy reddish-brown facial hair. He made a few adjustments with the hitch, and within 5 minutes, Mark's Saturn was up in the air and ready to go to the car doctor. The truck was old, a 1960s model, Mark figured. It smelled of grease and stale cigarettes. Do you mind if I smoke? Mark asked. It's been a really long day. Go for it, Cam answered, pulling out a cancer stick of his own and lighting it. So, what do you think it is? Hard to tell, till I can look at it. Sounds like it could be your fuel pump. There were some bikers who put seafoam in the engine for me. It worked pretty good for a while, but then it started up again. Where are you headed? Omaha. I'm visiting my parents. Well, that's not too far then. I was hoping I could use your phone to call them when I got to your shop. Well, we don't carry long distance on our phone, so you would have to call them collect. Don't you have a cell phone? Yeah, but the battery is almost dead. Maybe I could plug my charger into your cigarette lighter? Doesn't work, man. Sorry. That's okay. Mark thought about it, and he thought he just saw Cam light a cigarette with the cigarette lighter. There wasn't much to Abaddon, Iowa. There was a lot of abandoned buildings for what Mark guessed was once a sprawling community. The only thing with any life in it was a bar that looked like someone's trailer with a Coors Light sign in it. Around the corner was Kelso's Pump and Go, an old stucco building with double garage and 2 old-style pumps. There was a second story with boarded-up windows. Here we are, Cam announced. He slowly backed his Saturn into the garage. There were 2 others inside the garage, another guy dressed in navy blues, and a woman with tufts of red hair tucked into a green bandana. Mark hopped out of the tow truck and walked into the small waiting room lobby of the station. There were a few old snack foods on dusty shelves and an old Pepsi machine selling soda for 50 cents. He walked up to the counter, and there was an old man sitting at a desk watching a small black and white television. Excuse me, Mark said. The old man looked up. Oh, sorry. I get a little involved when the Wheel of Fortune's on. How can I help you? Yeah, I was wondering if I can use your phone. I need to call my parents in Omaha. Omaha? Well, I don't carry long distance on my phone because most people have cell phones now. And frankly, it's cheaper. Yeah, my cell phone's dead and I don't have a way to charge it. I can charge it for you, said a female voice from behind him. Excuse me? Mark turned around. I got a charger upstairs. It was the female mechanic. I can plug it in for you. That's very kind, but I don't want to be any trouble. No trouble, sugar, she said flirtatiously, and grabbed his phone from him. Thank you. My name's Heidi Kelso. Heidi. They pump hands and she takes his phone upstairs. Act that girl, the old man says under his breath. She gets a little too friendly sometimes. Don't worry, sir, Mark said uneasily. Your daughter is safe around me. I bat for the other team, if you catch what I mean. The old man looks at Mark for a moment as if he's dissecting him with his eyes. I figured, the old man says. Saw that rainbow sticker on your bumper. Makes no difference to me, long as you don't go putting your hands on me. Okay, I promise, Mark smiled. The old man offered his hand. My name's Gail Kelso. I own this place. You met my sons, Cameron and Gail Jr. Yeah, so, I was hoping to call my folks so they could give me a ride back until you get my car fixed. I see your predicament. They were expecting me for dinner. You could have dinner with us, Heidi said from behind him again. We're about an hour from eating. I don't want to impose on... Nonsense, Gail said. I insist. You don't suppose I could call my parents collect from your phone? Mark asked. Heidi walked in front of him and pulled her bandana from her head. Red ringlets of long hair fell down onto her shoulders. Oh, just stay for dinner, she said. We can have your car running by the time you finish dessert. Mark let out a sigh and shook his head. In agreement. If you think you can have my car fixed... Cam! Junior! Gail shouted into the garage. Think we can have our gay friend here? Think we can have his car going after dinner? They both looked at each other and then at Mark. Sure, Cam said. When's dinner? A half hour later, Mark was led upstairs to the upper apartment. At the top of the stairs was a small hallway where everyone took off their blue coveralls, and the door opened into a big apartment. There was plastic on the floors, and blue tarps hung on ropes to divide the large space into smaller makeshift rooms. We're remodeling, Heidi said with a smile. Follow me to the kitchen while everyone washes up. The kitchen was a small windowless room. A large wash tub served as a sink and a long metal table with a white sheet covering it. A crock pot sat atop a table with something steaming and smelling wonderful. Have a seat, Gail said, sitting in his spot at the head of the table. Mark looked at all the chairs. Are there reserved seats? Sit anywhere you're comfortable. He sat down near Gail, and the other two boys sat in the other seats, leaving the other end of the table open for Heidi. What would you like to drink, sugar? Heidi asked. What do you have? Mark asked. She opened the old refrigerator. Looks like I've got 2 Mountain Dews left, a pitcher of iced tea, and milk. I'll take some iced tea, please. So, Mark looked over at Cam. Is it the fuel pump? Cameron looked confused and then said, Oh, yeah. Looks like it's a bit gunked up. Don't know when your last oil change was, but judging by how dirty it is under the hood, it looks like it's been a while. Mark blushed in embarrassment. You know, that's the cheapest thing you can do to keep your car running, Junior spoke up, sounding a little aggressive. I know. I feel like an idiot. You are, Junior said back. Don't mind him, Heidi said, placing a tall glass of iced tea in front of him. He loves cars so much he'll never have a girlfriend. Mark guzzled the iced tea. May I have some more? I'm really thirsty. Sorry. Oh, don't you worry. Of course you can. Heidi poured him another tall glass. Mark gulped down another glass. He was thirsty. He had smoked several cigs, and Cottonmouth was his new best friend. He looked around at the table and noticed that everyone was staring in his direction. What's everyone looking at? He asked. Haven't you ever seen a gay man before? He suddenly felt drunk and a little silly. He thought for sure they were all laughing. I hope you didn't give him too much, Cam said in a voice that sounded to Mark like it was in a long, echoing cave. You might kill him, Junior said in the same hollow voice. The room began to spin, and Mark tried to stand up. He tried to lean against the spinning room and the plastic-covered floor around his face, and he met the plastic-covered floor with his face with a crunch. I think I'm gonna, Mark said, and then vomited. Shortly after, his lights went out. Glad we put the plastic down, Gale said. Come on, boys, get him up. I'll clear the table. Such well-mannered boys. Kevin says, I have plane tickets purchased. Not going to tell you when. Uh-huh. I believe it when I see it, Kevin. Mark awoke to the sensation of something pulling at his arm. He opened his eyes, and at first, everything was blurry. He tried to get up, but his hands would lift up where they were, and his torso was held by some sort of strap. His vision began to clear, and he saw the Kelso family gathered around him. He was strapped to the metal table that served as the dining room table. Gale was holding a long knife that had blood dripping from it. What? His mouth felt full of cotton still. What the fuck is going on? You are one tasty motherfucker, laughed Junior. Actually, Cameron added, he's gay, so he'd be a fatherfucker. The whole family laughed loudly. Mark looked down at his right arm, and had carved a long chunk out of his arm. Are you fuckers eating me? He whimpered. Don't worry, sissy boy, Cameron said. We gave you a big dose of Novocaine. You won't feel a thing. They all laughed, and then they took a slice off the other arm. He felt the same awful pulling, and he thought he would go mad watching them. They laid both slices of him on a silver platter. His arms were soaked with blood, and he was able to pull his arms free of their bonds. He sat up quickly and realized whatever roofie they slipped him was going to make balance difficult. Ooh, he's getting free, Junior squealed. He heard sizzling coming from the other side of a sheet, and as he rounded the corner, the smell of his own cooking flesh permeated his nostrils, and he almost stopped to puke. Junior grabbed onto his arm directly on the wound, and Mark cried out in pain. There was so much blood that his grip slipped, and Mark yanked his arm free and ran down the hallway. Don't you let that gay sumbitch get away, Gale cried out. Mark made his way to the staircase and was met by Cameron. The fuck you think you're going? Cameron snarled, blocking his way. Mark screamed out and tackled him down the steps. He felt every agonizing step as his raw nerve endings hit each stair. They both splayed out at the bottom of the stairs in a pile of metal that was a shelf that held old motor oil cans. "Stay the fuck away from me!" Mark shouted, trying to get to his feet. "Can't let my dinner get away from me," Cameron grinned at him as he staggered towards him. As Cameron lunged at him, he picked up a jagged piece of metal from the shelf and held it out. Cameron ran straight into it, impaling his chest deeply. The look of surprise on his face made Mark gag as blood bubbled out of his mouth, and he dropped to the ground. "Motherfucker!" Heidi screeched as she jumped at him from the fourth stair. Mark put his arms up in defense, and she bit down into the raw meat of his forearm. He screamed out and delivered a painful roundhouse to her temple. Still, her teeth stayed embedded into his arm. "Let me go!" he shouted as he repeatedly punched her temple. She growled at him in defense. He grabbed the side of her hair and then plunged his thumb into her eye socket, grimacing as he heard her eyes squishing and then made a wet popping sound. She bit down harder on his muscle tissue, but he was able to rip it free from her grip. He started to get up, but she had wrapped her legs around his waist and began squeezing as she cupped her ruined eye. He found a bottle of oil and struck her several times in the face with it until she loosened her grip on him. Panic struck him as he heard Gale and Junior coming down the steps. So he got to his feet and ran into the garage where his car was still up on the lift. "Fuck me," he muttered, and then made a break for the door. He ran to the tow truck and prayed the keys were in it. He slammed the door closed and locked both, and searched frantically for the keys. Junior and Gale were coming out the garage with a large crescent wrench and a rubber mallet. "You ain't going nowhere, you fucking faggot," Gale yelled as they approached. He looked in the glove box when Junior came down with the rubber mallet on the passenger side window. It spider-webbed, and then another blow from Gale with the wrench on the driver's side. It splintered, and Mark checked the visor, and a pair of keys dropped onto the floor of the cab. Little pig, Junior mocked. "Let me in." With that, the passenger side window crashed in. Mark found the keys and slipped them into the ignition. The driver's side window crashed and his face was nicked with broken glass. Gale reached in and tried to stop him from starting the truck, but it roared victoriously to life. He punched the clutch, tried to look for a reverse when Junior reached in and tried to grab the gear shift from him. Mark had found a pen on the ground and stabbed him clumsily in the cheek. Junior cried out and backed out of the cab. He found reverse and punched the accelerator. Gravel flew up in a rooster tail, making Gale and his namesake run for cover. The Novocaine was beginning to wear off, and it was painful to operate the truck. Wincing and gritting his teeth, he pulled out onto the street and made his way out of town and to the interstate. By the time he made it to the Iowa-Nebraska border, his arms were throbbing angrily. His adrenaline was wearing down and the pain was amplifying. He pulled the tow truck over just on the Nebraska side of the Mormon Bridge and wrapped his forearms in greasy rags he found in the cab of the truck. He took spare wiring he found on the floor and used it as a tourniquet just below his elbows. He put the truck into gear and began to pull out onto Interstate 680 when the same group of bikers pulled up to him and surrounded his truck. Exhausted, he pulled back into the shoulder and put on the parking brake. The lead biker poked his head into the window. "Holy shit, man. What happened to you?" "Crazy sons of bitches tried to eat me," he said as unconsciousness tried to claim him. "Guess that explains the tow truck. Need to get you to the hospital, dude." The biker looked at the makeshift bandages and all the blood. He motioned for his second in command to come take a look. Fuck, the other biker said and opened Mark's door. Move over, man. I'm driving you to the hospital. I just want to go home. Blackness overtook him. Mark awoke in the ICU of Creighton Medical Center, the room lit by the tiny LEDs of his monitors. His rags replaced by gauze and a good dose of morphine kept his pain at bay. Next to his bed was a biker. He was watching The Price is Right, and then looked over at him. Hey, man, he said, sitting up. You doing okay? Where am I? Mark asked groggily. Creighton Medical. Got you all patched up and doped up. Do my parents know I'm here? Nope. You didn't have your phone on you, so really had no idea how to get a hold of them. Can you hand me the phone? The biker handed him the hospital bed phone, and he dialed his parents' number. It rang 3 times, and then his mother aunt picked it up. Mom, Mark said, almost coming to tears. Mom! Calm down, son, she said. What's wrong? Where are you? Are you still in Abaddon? No. God, no. I'm in the hospital. Can you come up here and get me? The hospital? Why are you in the hospital? Just... The memory of the previous night made him shiver. Just come get me, please. Well, I've got some shopping to do. Maybe your dad can come and get you. Hang on. He can hear his mother explain to his dad that he's in the hospital. No, she didn't know why he was in there. No, he apparently didn't have his car. No, he hasn't given any details about what's going on. No, she can't get him because she promised to go shopping with Andrea from next door. His dad mumbles something unintelligible. It might be a while, she comes back on. Your father has a few errands to run first. Plus, you know he's got to have his morning coffee with his retired buddies. You know what? Just forget it, Mark said bitterly. I'll figure something else out. Well, don't get so impatient, Mark. You know your father and I have lives too. Mark hung up the phone. The biker looked a little concerned and then returned the phone to the nightstand. Everything all right? The biker asked. Think you can give me a lift back to my parents' house? Mark asked. Sure, man, but you'll have to ride bitch on my bike. We dumped the tow truck in the river. Figured it was hot and someone might be looking for it. Mark shivered again, thinking about the Kelsos. They must have really fucked you up, the biker asked. They tried to fucking eat me, Mark said bitterly. Who, the people in the garage? At the garage? Yes. Come on, man, seriously? That sounds like something out of a horror flick. They drugged me, and when I woke up, they had me strapped to the table and were carving strips of meat off my arms to cook and eat them. What the fuck? Mark lay there trembling, staring at his bandaged arms. There was dried blood still stuck in his nails. Let me talk to Double A and we'll get going, okay? The biker left the room and Mark started to put his clothes on. 15 minutes later, Double A came in with a few of his club members, looking concerned. Hey, Mark, Double A said. Tudor told me what happened to you. Fuck, man, you're tougher than I thought. You need us to pay those crazy fucks a visit? No, man, Mark said, finishing getting dressed. I just want to go home. Tudor's my man-at-arms. I'm going to have him give you a lift home. Thanks, man. Hey, Double A says, shaking his hand. You got some cojones there for a gay guy. You've got my respect. Take care, man. Tudor, drop him off and then meet us at Opie's. The group left in a thunderous roar and headed to their clubhouse in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Tudor and Mark made it to the suburb of Millard and down his parents' street. As they rounded the corner of Washington Circle, Mark's heart froze. Your car's there, Tudor said to him, slowing down a few houses away. Mark sat in frozen silence. Let's go check it out. No, I can't. Let's just go. Don't worry, buddy, I'm carrying. They pulled up to his parents' driveway. His Saturn sat ominously at the end of the drive. The house looked quiet. Fuck it, man, Mark said. Let's just go. Chill. You wounded them, didn't you? Tudor said. I got your back. Mark thought about running as Tudor dropped the kickstand. They walked cautiously up the cement steps to his parents' cookie-cutter split-level home. Tudor drew his .45 caliber and slowly opened the front door. Stay behind me, man, he said, and stay close. How did they find out where my parents lived? Mark whispered. Shh. Tudor opened the front door slowly. All the shades were drawn in the house and all the lights were turned down. It was near pitch black inside. This is a fucking trap, Mark whispered. Shut the fuck up, Mark, Tudor scolded, and they began to ascend the stairs. When they reached the top floor landing, the first thing they found was his mother's dog. She was a Lhasa Apso, lying crushed at the top of the steps. Blood had dried in a stain on the carpet. Jesus, Mark gasped. Spunky. They checked the living room and the kitchen, and then moved slowly down the hall to the bedrooms. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Tudor made it back to the top of the stairs and motioned down the steps. They descended into the basement. The family room was lit by candles. There were plastic tarps spread out on the floor and walls, but otherwise empty. They backtracked to the door into the tuck-under garage. Tudor raised his gun and turned the doorknob. There was a loud, crunching sound, followed immediately by Tudor letting out a gurgling "Oh." He dropped his pistol, and then his body went limp, still in an upright position. Tudor? Mark asked. His body jerked forward into the floor, or into the door, and then back again. Then, with a sudden slam, his protector fell into a heap in front of the door. Jesus, Tudor, are you okay? The only reply was familiar laughter on the other side of the door. Welcome home, son, Gale's voice came through the other side. Mark shivered and then went to the floor looking for the .45 his late friend had dropped. The door opened on the other side, but was immediately stopped by Tudor's body. Panicked, Mark found the gun and fired 2 rounds at the door. You want to play rough, eh, faggot? Gale said from the opening. Just then, a long, sharpened metal rod came through the door and almost impaled him, had he been 3 inches to the left. You fuckers! Mark screamed at them and fired off 5 more rounds. Silence answered him on the other side of the door. He didn't want to peek his head into the opening and get his head impaled by the pole. He waited them out. Come on, sugar. Come on in. It was Heidi's voice. So he must have hit the old man, which left Junior to be accounted for. Fuck you, you one-eyed bitch, Mark spat back at her. That is no way to talk to a lady. Your mama was polite all the way to the end. Nice lady. A little plump, but very nice. Even when we were slicing her up. You fucking bitch, I'm gonna kill you! Oh, baby, I'm gonna eat you. When we finish with you, then we'll have some of your parents. Mark let off 2 more rounds and then listened. The shots ringing in his ears in the enclosed space. He stood up and began to walk up the steps. He was going to try and make it to the neighbors and call the police. As he made it up to the first step, the long iron rod shot out through the small gap in the door and punctured his left thigh, and he fell forward onto his face, Got him, Daddy! Junior giggled like a madman. Daddy's almost dead, Heidi replied. Just pull that little fucker in here. Junior grabbed a hold of his ankle and through the opening dragged him painfully through it. Mark twisted so he could defend himself, but Heidi was already on top of him, knees pressing into the meat of his already ruined arms. He could see the bodies of his parents lying in a pile on the floor. They had been field-dressed like deer would be. Grab his arm, Heidi ordered Junior. Take off those bandages. Gail Kelso was lying next to him with a gunshot wound to his neck. He was bleeding out, staring emotionless at Mark. Junior grabbed his arm and put it to his father's mouth. Come on, Daddy, Heidi said to her father. Take a bite. Gail's jaw opened and then closed down on Mark's exposed arm. The old man's false teeth moved in his mouth and then slipped out. Mark screamed as Gail's gum squeezed down on the raw nerves of his muscles, and he sucked and drooled on his wounds. Get off me, you sick sons of bitches! Mark tried to wiggle his way out from underneath Heidi. Heidi laughed and grabbed his other arm and bit down into it. He cried out as she jerked her head back to rip out a chunk. He felt a searing pain from his calf as Junior bit down into his leg and pulled out a wet chunk of skin and meat. Please! Mark let out one final cry, but it went unheard as the remaining Kelsos began their orgasmic cannibalistic feast. Before darkness claimed him, Before darkness claimed him, he moaned a tired breath as bits and pieces were tugged away from his limp body. And that, my friends, is the end of Kelso's Pump and Go. That was a bit of a long one. So, hope y'all enjoyed it. So after doing this story, I looked up so cannibalism is not illegal in 49 states of the United States. Hey, did you like that one, Kev? That's some good nightmare fuel for you, buddy. So yeah, I looked it up. Cannibalism is not illegal in the United States. Well, in 49 states. Idaho is the only place where it's illegal, where cannibalism is illegal. But there are loopholes. The loophole is this. One, you obviously can't murder somebody to eat them. And two, you cannot abuse a corpse. So, I'm guessing you can probably eat somebody while they're still alive. No sleep tonight. At least this one isn't near my house like last week. Right. That's right. Yeah. So, so I guess if you're going to be a cannibal, just you got to keep them alive. So there you go. But anyhow, last night's gig, it wasn't really a Tunes for Tuesday because we did not broadcast it. I was running late. I was trying to get off work early, and then things happened, and I wasn't able to, which always happens every time I try to get off early. And was not able to get somebody set up to record our show or to run it live. But we had a pretty good turnout. I was actually really impressed. We had some fun. We had a couple of guests come up and sing and play. So that was pretty cool. The next gig that we're having is going to be on the 19th of September, so in another month. And the Winthrop Chamber of Commerce always has a kind of an end of summer picnic, and we'll be playing that, and it'll be just Bobby and I. And we are bringing in, at least I hope we're bringing in a special guest, Lindsay May, who I used to play music with a while back. So she'll be joining us. Hopefully, we'll see. Anyhow, yeah. So that's our next gig. Also, is it next week? I think. Yes, next week. I'm having my author visit at the Winthrop City Library. That is at 6 or 7 o'clock, I think. I really should pay attention to the times these things are supposed to be. It's probably why I run late all the time. But yeah, it's at the city library, and been wondering what I'm gonna do for it. Even here I am a week before it's supposed to happen. But I think I'm just gonna do a talk for about an hour, and just talk about me. I might read some snippets out of a book. I might read some poetry, a little of both maybe. But yeah, no sleep tonight. How far are you from Minneapolis, St. Paul? I am about an hour and a half from there. I'm an hour and a half straight west, Kev. So, do you need a ride from the airport? So, anyway, yeah. So I don't know. So we got that going on. I will be having a Tunes for Tuesday next Tuesday, and that actually will be the end of season. I think we're in season 3 for that. So, yeah, I haven't got that picked out yet. I will sometime in the next 2 days. I'll have something picked out. Yeah. So that's what we got going on here. I still have to figure out how to do a 2-person interview on Facebook Live so that I can interview my daughter about her book coming out. So anyhow, folks, that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you all very much for coming out and watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll have another one next Wednesday on the next Horror Hump Day. All right. Peace out, everybody. Mwah. Oh, by the way, thanks. I got like 500 reactions now. I'm up another 100, and I'm still climbing, and I got recognized as a rising creator again this week. So, and that's all thanks to you guys. So, thanks, Shannon. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Steph, for coming out. Everybody else that's out there in the background, thank you also for listening as well. So appreciate all of you. Peace out. Mwah. Love. Clickety click clack.